On behalf of the National Center for the Performing Arts, Mumbai, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us for this workshop, which is an online workshop on artist discovery and marketing on digital platform. We understand that several of you have joined us from various metropolis from India and outside. So thank you again, once again. At the outset, we'd like to express our gratitude to HSBC as our esteemed supporters for various programs that we undertake. They help us to undertake a 3-day festival titled Bandish. Besides this, they also support 3 gurus, totally training 9 disciples. They also help us to conduct a 3-day workshop session with master, what we call as master classes. Then we have 4 workshops, such as this one being presented today on various topics which we call as soft skills, that means outside the domain of actual musical teaching. We also have 2 concerts with 4 promising artists, both vocal and instrumentalist. So you will see that really HSBC has been generous, and thank you HSBC. As we know today, digital presence is inseparable from the artistic success. Keeping this in mind, today's interactive workshop is designed to equip musicians and performing artists with the tools to build an online presence. Participants are supposed to get an insight into building a strong digital identity, crafting discoverable content, and using platforms, various platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Bandsintown, etc., to expand their audience and artistic footprints. The artist can hope to walk away with a foundational understanding of how to amplify their reach and relevance across the most influential digital platforms. And today, we are privileged to have with us 2 speakers who are in the field, experts in the field, Mr. Kartik Khanna and Mr. Shehzad Kazi. Mr. Khanna is a co-founder of the Starter Labs, which is a marketing agency that helps build and scale direct-to-consumer brands. With a sharp eye for strategy and a passion for performance marketing, beg your pardon, he has helped fast-growing brands find their voice online. At the Starter Labs, he leads content, growth, and media strategy and helps clients to craft authentic and engaging digital narratives. Our second speaker is Mr. Shehzad Kazi. He leads Bandsintown initiatives in India, which is a global platform that connects over 80 million fans with their favorite artists through concert discovery, ticketing, and fan engagement tools. He brings his expertise in the intersection of live music and technology. His session will focus on how artists can use platforms to enhance discoverability, promote live performances, and reach new listeners. So, friends, as you'll see, we are going to be in the expert hands, and we take this opportunity to thank both Mr. Khanna and Mr. Kazi for accepting our invitation to share their expertise and enlighten us. Duration is about 60 minutes. During the workshop itself, you can start posting your questions, and we'll take them up with both the gentlemen at the end of the session. Thank you, and over to Mr. Khanna.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Good day to everybody that's joining us online. Just a quick intro to how we're going to be splitting this. We'll split the session into 2 parts, where in the first half, I'll take you through the artist discovery and the marketing side of things for social media as well as digital platforms, and how we can use all of these not as a distraction but as a tool which will help us get discovered and connect with fans. And in the second half, Shehzad will take us through everything that Bandsintown has to offer. As Dr. Rao said earlier, please let your questions keep flowing in. We'll take them as and when towards the end of the session. So for the first bit, we're here to talk about 4 aspects. First, we'll talk about building your digital identity, who you are online, and why you need to be authentic, why it really matters. Next, we'll talk about what makes content shareable and discoverable and the type of content that really works for the different kinds of musicians or artists. We'll then look at the audience growth side of things, how you can use organic as well as paid to actually create an audience base that turns into fans and followers. And finally, we'll talk about the monetization and partnership opportunities that just having a strong, robust, and consistent digital presence gets you. Before we get into it, let's ask the very, very important question. Why does digital visibility matter, right? If we look at how we interact with the world around us, so much of it is digital. Over 70% of listeners today discover new music through social platforms. So gone are the days where, maybe you'd go to school or college and talk about a song you heard on the music channel before you went to work. People are actually sharing this, discovering it, exchanging these cool discoveries with their friends and family on social media platforms. Even labels and festival bookers often look at your online presence before they will often, check with you or lock with you with respect to your performances. But here's the important part. No artist needs to become a full-time content creator. You are an artist first, and you must maintain that. Think of social media as an extension of your stage. Your Instagram is like your club gig, and YouTube is like your open mic, but with a million people potentially watching. So the goal isn't to chase likes. It's to make sure that you're being as authentic as possible so the right kind of people can discover you, right? Remember, don't become a content creator. Use your content to amplify your art. Before we get into setting up our own digital persona, it's very important to understand the different platforms where people or where the audience or potential fans are actually discovering musicians, artists, bands, etc. It's very important to remember this because maybe a lot of you are out there saying, I'm just going to duplicate Instagram content on YouTube and then I'm going to duplicate that and maybe have small cuts of that on YouTube Shorts. Do I even need to be present on Twitter or Facebook? Do I even need to do something on Spotify or SoundCloud? And what does a platform like Bandsintown actually do for me? Before we even get into that, it's important to remember that the customer actually consume, the customer, the fans, your followers, they interact with every platform differently. Think about it. When you go to Instagram, you might end up spending an hour on it, but that's never your intention. You go there because you want to spend 2, 3, 5 minutes in between some tasks, or maybe you're burning some time. You don't go onto Instagram and say, let me spend 45 minutes here. Yeah. But you actually do go onto YouTube with that kind of intent. You go onto YouTube to consume slightly longer form of content, but then YouTube also has shorts, which is for people who are looking for something really quick, easy to scroll, easy to kind of interact with, get micro information, and then kind of move on with their day. All of these three platforms, which are so important for music and artist discovery, are used completely differently by the customer. Facebook also, which is a platform that so many people might think is completely dead.
Yeah, I've not seen many artists use Facebook at all. I'm surprised that it's still there and relevant.
And it's so interesting because if we look at India, it's so widespread, right? The people are so different. Facebook is still very relevant in tier 2 and tier 3. Right. The actual thought or the insight behind that is in metro cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, maybe you extend to Calcutta, Chennai, these places, culture exists with respect to content. So it's very hard for platforms to kind of decide which platform gets the push. But if you move further into maybe an Amritsar or a Bhopal, you will see Facebook still has very high adoption. So if you happen to be somebody who realizes that a lot of their audience could be in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, could be using regional languages, then again, Facebook becomes very, very important to you.
I think what also means that the number of followers on each platform means a different thing for the artist.
Oh, 100%, because Facebook would give you something like page likes, which is very different from Instagram followers. Right. Your page likes will never get you the engagement rate that an Instagram follower base gets you, but more on that in a few slides. And outside of the social media platforms, we also have, Spotify, Discord, SoundCloud, and of course, Bandsintown that Shehzad will teach us more about. But if you look at Spotify also, it's not just a streaming platform because Spotify has also added a social layer. So your artist profile, the playlist that you create, the collaborations that you have. Think of it almost as Spotify is like a digital resume for an artist. You also then have things like SoundCloud, where experimentation lives, which is still such a massive discovery hub, especially if you really want to crack the indie space, right? And unlike Instagram, SoundCloud is very community driven. So if you happen to get the right kind of, or you happen to make the right kind of noise in the communities, scaling and getting some kind of follower base from there is going to be very easy. So here's what we need to really do, right? Understand what the platform does for the artist, understand how every consumer uses the platform, and then see where you can fit in. Don't just say, I'm going to create content and disseminate it across all platforms blindly. The spray and pray mechanism or strategy is not something that will yield great interest over or yield interest over a long period of time. If we move forward, once you understand the platform, it's very, very important that authenticity means a lot to you, right? It's essentially your biggest assets. Copying a trend might definitely give you a little bit of a spike, but that spike will definitely fade. What lasts is when fans think or believe that you are sharing a very real version of you that they're getting to interact with. The authenticity gives you long-term trust and loyalty. Think about Pratik Kuhad, right? His music is intimate, his music feels vulnerable, and there's always so many emotions. But if you look at his presence digitally, you just go through his Instagram profile, just go through any announcement that he does. It feels intimate, it feels vulnerable, it feels soft. And Shehzad, I think we were discussing Pratik Kuhad earlier.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pratik is a great example, and because we've seen his usage stats on our platform and the kind of engagement he sees, and they are probably right at the top. I will say the top 3 Indian artists whose engagement rates on a platform, even like in Bandsintown, is very, very high simply because it seems all cohesive. His entire communication medium with his fans is consistent.
Yeah.
And it's cohesive.
Yeah.
From his website to his Instagram to his profile on Bandsintown and how he communicates. I mean, it's a great example, Pratik Kuhad, clearly.
Lovely. So with Pratik Kuhad, we also have Divine, who's on the other end of the spectrum. Still consistent, still out there, but significantly more in your face. But wherever you interact with a hip-hop artist like Divine, you know you're going to get some of that raw energy. But he makes sure that whichever platform he's using, whichever format he's using, that same gritty identity is still there, whether it's in his lyrics, whether it's in his story, or whether it's in a simple photo that he's posting on Instagram, right? Remember, if it doesn't feel like you, you don't need to post it. Now, once you understand what authenticity means to you, how do you really take that and convert it into a little bit of a persona, right? Translating your artistry into a persona, you need to remember there are 4 elements. There is the tone of voice. So, the kind of captions you have, how you speak, how you respond to people, how you interact with comments, how you respond to your DMs. There is the aesthetic, which is the style, the color palettes, the typefaces, the fonts. These are all things, if you are an artist and you are looking to build your brand, you have to do a sit down and put all of this down and make sure that you are complying with this, no matter where you're putting out content, no matter what the format is. Also, it's very important that you understand what your storytelling style is. We spoke about Pratik Kuhad earlier, who has a very intimate and almost a high on emotions, high on vulnerability storytelling style. But then you've got Divine on the other hand, the example we spoke of earlier, who is more raw, who's more gritty, who is probably talking about similar, struggles that everybody faces, through their professional journeys. But it's always going to be so in your face. It's going to be so bold. So it's very important to understand what is your storytelling style and almost lock in on one. And finally, what are your values, which means what do you stand for, what do you stand behind. Are you somebody that's going to be big on promoting indie artists? Are you going to be big on maybe talking about the education or the intelligence behind everything that you craft? Are you someone who's going to, be light and keep everything, very, very, very nice, very sweet, very rainbows and sunshine? So very important that you understand what your values are or what you stand for. Because eventually, and this is a formula that we've kind of put together, what your music identity is, plus your personality, plus your visual style, is essentially what gives rise to your digital persona. We'll then move on to something that we call the purpose triangle, and it's a framework that I want everybody to remember, right? Because every platform has a purpose. For example, Instagram gives you engagement and potentially ad revenue, and YouTube wants watch time, right? So every platform has a particular purpose that they want to try and extract out of you as an artist. Then there is the artist purpose. Why are you on there? Why are you creating content? How are you connecting with your audience? And then is the business purpose. Because all of these digital presence that you have, whether it be on, you updating the social layer on Spotify, or you having an active Instagram presence, or you just going out to Twitter and making sure that you are sending out something relevant to your follower base every now and then, all of it essentially has to serve some purpose. Once you understand all of these three layers, and you're able to find how you hit the nail on the head across the board, that's essentially when you figure out exactly what your content is, and you will start to see the benefit of something like that. A simple example could be a jam session, right? If today I am an artist and Shehzad is an artist and he plays the drums, I play the guitar. Let's roll with that for a minute. And we're just kind of jamming, we're brainstorming on how we could, on what the song could sound like, or I'm introducing him to a new riff that I kind of worked on, or he's introducing me to a new solo that he's worked on. It becomes so interesting for the audience to actually look at that, because it helps them understand who we are as musicians behind the scenes. It gives them a little bit of an insight into our thought process, how we work. It obviously caters to the platform because you're giving it content that the platform can use to try and cater to the right audience. And finally, it helps you express yourself. A brand that sees this will also maybe think about all of the dedication, the hard work, or how you kind of put your work together. So that's an example of how you could have content that hits the nail on the head for all three layers.
And actually, just one more thing. What you said about previously about different platforms serving specific purposes.
Yeah.
The kind of content you put, for example, if it's behind the scenes, that could be relevant for some specific platform.
Yeah.
While your photos with your fans are relevant to a different platform.
Oh, definitely. Right? If you put a behind the scenes, for example, as a long form YouTube content, very few people would end up watching it, right? Because only a loyal fan will end up watching a 30-minute video of a band or an artist working on something.
Right.
But if it was a very quick 45-second video where where I'm really riffing and you're giving us some solos and we kind of crop it and put it together, suddenly that YouTube short has a lot of momentum. Right. Because it becomes a highlight or almost like a teaser instead of, hey, deep dive into this irrespective of you really knowing us or not knowing us. Perfect. So a small exercise, what I want everyone to do, so what I'm going to try and do is over the next few slides, there will be a couple of small exercises. What I want everyone to do is to kind of put this down themselves, maybe work on it on your own. If you like, you can put this down in the comments and we can circle back to this at the end to jam on it. But a simple question that I will ask, if your music was a person, what 3 words would describe it? Shehzad, do you want to have a stab at this?
Oh, put me in the spot. I think restless, magnetic, bold.
Nice. So very high energy, right? Like very high energy, always on the move. Now, if you have to take these 3 words, right? Because restless, magnetic, and bold is what you have. If you want to take these 3 words and try and maybe build a sentence, you don't need to use these exact words. You can use the sentiment behind these words. But if you had to put together a sentence that maybe captures the essence of your music, what would that be? Do you want to have a stab at something like that?
I don't know. I don't think I'll come up with that so soon, but I completely understand where artists are feeling the pressure to deliver. But maybe music that moves,
Nice.
hits you clearly,
Nice.
something like that.
Nice. Nice. So you see how once he figured that he wanted to have restless, magnetic, and bold, 3 adjectives attached to his personality, he was able to almost very, very quickly come up with a line that said, music that moves or hits you clearly, hits you with clarity. It's very easy to start building that persona once you know the base. A simple exercise I want everyone to do, 3 words that best describe you if your music was a person, and let's try and make that into a little bit of an Instagram bio, right? Let's make it into a one line. In the marketing and the business world, we call that an elevator pitch. And that's essentially what your bio across different platforms should do. It should let people read who you are or what you stand for in a very, very quick 1 or 2 lines. In addition to just having these words or having an elevator pitch or a one-liner to describe yourself, also very important that you kind of zero in on the visual style of your content. We spoke about Pratik Kuhad earlier and Divine, so we'll kind of work with these 2 examples. Once you go to Pratik Kuhad's page, or you look at a billboard that he might have, or you look at even his small concert announcement banner on a platform, you'll notice that there is consistency. Like Shehzad pointed out earlier, whether it's a post, whether it's a poster, whether it's a banner, Pratik Kuhad sounds, looks, and feels like Pratik Kuhad. He's got his visual style. Obviously, he has his music style. He's got his musical personality. But his visual style, his visual persona is also pretty much locked in. So very important we capture that. And like I had said earlier, what you stand for or what your vibe is also something that's very, very important. Are you going to be raw? Are you going to be gritty? Are you going to be soft? Are you going to be vulnerable? Will you be playful? Will you be aspirational? Will you be inspirational? It's very important you close in on the content vibe, because that is something that people will start to almost kind of associate with. Think about all the big bloggers, influencers, or even actors and celebrities that have started leveraging social media and digital platforms. You know what their vibe is. You know, for example, Pedro Pascal is an affectionate, vulnerable, caring person. You know Kanye West is outspoken. You know he's out there. You know he takes no prisoners when he speaks. Whether good or bad is a separate conversation. Yeah. But their vibe is become very, very clear, right? So remember, try and get your one-liner, which can work as your Instagram bio or a one-line on Spotify. Try and capture your visual style and try and capture your content vibe. But remember, the easiest starting point for all of this is just 3 words. Can you use 3 adjectives to describe your music if it was a person? Now that, let's assume through the journey, you've understood the requirement or the need to try and close in on some kind of personality for yourself. Let's try and look at what makes content shareable, right? There's 3 drivers of shareability: relatability, emotional, or participatory. Think about it. Whether you spend your time on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever other platform of your choice, these are the 3 reasons we will say, let me send this to someone else. If you laugh over it because it's relatable, and you maybe send it to your best friend. If you feel something over it, right? You feel some kind of, there's so much that's happening with respect to families and partners with the content online. It makes you feel something. You quickly share it with your mother, with your brother, with your sister, with your partner. Or it's something that just makes you engage. It's a mini game. You have to swipe. You stop it at the right time. It has to do one of these 3 things. If it's not relatable for the person, they're simply going to swipe away. If it's not evoking an emotion, they're simply going to think it's making no difference. And if it's not going to engage them, they're again just going to keep scrolling away. The shareability zone, where people will definitely share, is in the middle of all 3 of these. It's very difficult to ensure that any piece of content you put out is tick-marking each one of these 3 checkboxes. But when we call this out to understand, can you try to do at least 2, if not 3? If not 2, can you then at least do 1? But if it's neither of the 3, A red flag should be going up to say, hey, maybe this is not content that I need to put out there because it's not going to do anything for me. This is fact that posts with strong emotions get 1.5 times more share than neutral ones. Just think about it. That's 1.5 more X by just adding an emotion to it. When I say adding an emotion, it doesn't mean emotional. It doesn't need to make the person sappy, or doesn't need to make them tear up or cry. Emotions could be absolutely anything. Positive emotions, negative emotions, emotions that make you feel or reminisce. All of these things are absolutely valid, but make sure you can attach some emotion to it.
I think, Kartik, one thing important here is it should not be forced emotions.
Oh,
I
of
think what you
course.
mentioned earlier is to be yourself, be genuine,
Yeah.
and still have that emotion, right? The
Correct.
idea is not to get forced emotions in.
Correct. Which is also, why all three of these kind of matter. Because if you feel like you're forcing the emotion, take a step back, minimize that, but can you then double down on the relatability angle? So it's almost like this also serves as a little bit of a trade-off mechanism, where you understand, I should be doing a fair bit of one of these three. If I can do two, that's great. If I can do three, that's best. But none of it should be forced. None of it should be out of character for who you are. Right? Because remember, guys, people don't just share music. They share music that makes them feel something. It's very important that your content is an extension of that. And once you wrap your head around these three aspects that make content shareable, what I've put together is just 4 very, very quick pillars which will help you almost get started with your content journey. What are pillars and why are these important? Pillars essentially become predictable pieces of content that you can keep creating. For example, behind the scenes, where you talk about the rehearsals, your studio sessions, maybe the daily routines. The second pillar becomes performance snippets. So your actual performances. And if you happen to be one of those really out there high energy performers, this is something that's really going to be something that sets you apart, right? Personal storytelling. Why you wrote a particular song, what is your background. Think about it this way, the artists that we relate to most, whether it be a metal band, whether it be a hip-hop artist, whether it be a pop artist, somehow we tend to know a lot about their lives. We know their stories. In some cases, we know when they've had their heartbreak. In some cases, we even know who broke their heart, right? And that's the part that we actually relate to most. So putting your own story out there is a very, very important pillar for musicians. And finally, you have community interactions, which serves multiple purposes. But the bottom line of it is also to showcase that you have a community, right? And fortunately or unfortunately, a big part about these platforms is to be able to talk about the community you've developed. So remember, a very, very important pillar is also community interaction. It's not that you don't need a 5th or a 6th pillar, or it's not that these are the only 4 pillars that will work. But these 4 act like a really, really solid base to say, if you do these 4 consistently, there is going to be enough of yourself that you are putting out there for people to start saying, I agree with this person, or I really enjoy this person, or this person's music really means something to me. So a good way to get started is by locking in on your pillars and then rotating these pillars weekly. Maybe in the first week, you may only do 2 pieces of content where it's a behind the scenes and a performance snippet. And in the next week, you do pillar 3 and pillar 4. And the week after that could be pillar 1 and pillar 4. So mixing and matching is absolutely fine. But these 4 could be, the outline or the blueprint for the nature of content that you have. Very quickly, we'll also go over the formats that work because that's increasingly important. Reels, shorts are very good for discovery, for you hopping onto trends, and for shareability. Carousels, which are the swipables, are very, very solid for educational or narrative posts when you have a story to tell, or you have a learning or an experience you'd like to share. Stories are very, very good for interactions. So, you want to maybe share an experience that you had about a person that you met. You want to ask questions about something. You want to maybe test 2-3 things. Or AMA sessions, ask me anything. Super popular on social. And like I said earlier, it's always nice to know why your artist wrote a particular song, or what kind of food they eat, or what are their hobbies. We love to have a following with the with the artists that we adore. Stories makes that very, very easy. And finally, you've got lives, which is real-time interactions, maybe taking requests from fans, and even jamming with fans. Remember, guys, there are a lot of these platforms available, but most platforms in 2025 have already pivoted towards video. So they prioritize video. The more likely you are to create or lean on video content, the more reach you will probably have. Just a simple example, Reels' reach is up to 60% more for non-followers than compared to static posts. So if I happen to have 10,000 followers and 20,000 people see content that I share, safe to assume that 10,000 people who are not my followers or 15,000 people who are not my followers are seeing that content. It's going to be a lot lower, that number, if you're using static, and a lot higher if you are using video. So for now, video is also another way to hack the algorithm. Make sure you're leaning on it. And here are some really, really cool discoverability hacks. Everyone knows hashtags, but you absolutely don't need to use 30 hashtags and have an entire essay worth of hashtags at the bottom. Just find 5, 7 which are applicable to genre, mood, and to the community. Captions, very important that you start with a hook. A hook is something that's going to get people to say, oh, I want to read more. Very often you'll see, here are 5 ways I accomplished all of the success in the world. Now, maybe that is too out there a hook, but something along those lines that, kind of sparks that inquisitivity to say, I want to know what else they're saying. So a strong hook goes a very, very long way. Having a strong cover image, obviously if you are using video, have strong cover image, because a cover image is what they see when they're scrolling through your profile. So make sure that that is in line with your visual identity. On all platforms, especially when you convert to a business, which everyone out there should do, very simple, you can just kind of go into the settings and change to a business account. Very important that you start using the insights that the platform gives you. So they will actually tell you when your fans are most online. Posting 15, 20, 30 minutes before that, around that, is actually when you will end up getting most traction. And all of these platforms now have audios. So start using trending sounds when possible. If you just click on the add audio option at the time of uploading, you actually get a list of sounds that you can use. The trending sounds give you an algorithm boost. What you should be doing is using trending sounds and then backing that up with your own sounds. So, 2 posts with trending sounds and then 1 or 2 posts with yours. So when someone is actually scrolling, they could see a trending sound, they could see another trending one, and then they're looking at yours, right? So it's also a good way to leverage what the algorithm does, but also make sure that you're constantly feeding in your music as well. Remember, guys, save and share, right? They're like key signals to the platforms. So what the algorithm learns is that these people are sending signals to me to tell me that this particular person's content is very, very applicable to me, or that I really enjoy it, or that I always want to engage with it, right? Here is what the algorithm actually rewards. 4 things. Watch time, which means if people watch more of your video, your content will show up to them more often. If people watch your video again and again, it tells the platform there's higher retention. A little hack here. If you've spent any time on Instagram in the last couple of years, I'm sure you've noticed statics, right? Like just photos, which actually you need to open up and use, and they almost work like videos. It's basically a 2-second video. It's a 1.5-second video. The reason that these platforms use this, and more often than not, you'll see meme pages, clickbait pages, they're using this because they really want to double down on the engagement. It's a 2-second video. You see the video for 10 seconds. After that, you realize, oh God, this is the same video that I've seen on a loop for 5 times for 2 seconds. You think that and you scroll away. What it actually tells the algorithm is that I enjoy this page's content so much, I saw the same video 5 times. And I saw the same video start to finish. The algorithm is not creating a difference between a 2-second video and a 5-second video or a 10-second video. What it's making note of is that I saw that video start to finish 5 times. So the next time that page posts and I open Instagram, it's going to be the very first post on my, on my feed. So very important, you obviously try and create your videos in a way where people want to watch more of it. The more they watch, the more they keep watching you, and the longer they watch, the easier it's going to be for you to always be on their feed. Saves also a very, very good signal of long-term value for the algorithm. A simple example would be if you are a musician, say you play the guitar, and let's say as when I was young and I dabbled in a little bit of music and I play the guitar, I found hammering to be a slightly harder thing to get hold of. And maybe if you are a musician and you know something like this, and you play the guitar, you can say, hey, here are 3 quick ways to ensure that hammering comes easy to you. And then you kind of teach them how it's done. You end with, hey, if you like this, please save it. The next time you face a difficulty with hammering, come back and watch this video. So find ways to create content that people will actually save. In addition to that, find ways of creating content that people will actually share. So often you'll see content with, if you enjoyed this, please share, or if this is relevant, please share with your XYZ person, or tag that person. All of these things, obviously they create engagement, but the brands, the artists, and the pages that actually look for monetization, they're doing this to ensure that they have stronger engagement. And finally, engagement in the first 30 minutes, which is something that's a little out of your control. But engagement in the first 30 minutes goes a very, very long way in high engagement, which is why if you call back to the previous slide, it's important to know when your audience is online. If you post when they're online, they're more likely to see it immediately. And if they see it in the first 30 minutes of you posting, you're more likely to get further reach. A simple example, again, a raw jam session, right? With good audio. Fans save it because it has an interesting hook where you maybe, a good audio will be saved by fans. An interesting hook in the first 3 seconds will mean that people replay it because they will go back to the first 3 sessions. And then if you have a call to action where it says, tag a friend who would vibe to this, or tag a friend who you want to resume your jamming sessions with, that's where you're also getting the shareability angle. Remember, guys, 50% of Instagram usage is now Reels. That means all of the other stuff, the slightly longer videos, the statics, the carousels, everything else that Instagram has to offer is now just 50% of the platform. There's also organic versus paid growth, right? Because how these platforms work is they've essentially killed organic growth to happen in a very formula-able manner, which means nobody knows anymore how 1 + 2 + 3 equals success on the organic front. So organic really requires you to keep at it, to be very, very consistent. But the benefit of this is, if you can build an organic growth, you obviously don't lose money, which is a great benefit for everyone involved. But it builds very strong credibility and loyal communities. And it makes sure that it's a stronger but a long-term fan base. Whereas paid growth is very, very good for spikes, for quickly accelerating your discovery, and good for things like, promotions just before the event, just before a release. Remember though, these platforms work in a way where they also would like to earn as much money as possible. So if you are running paid, you might lose that deeper connection because the platform will keep sending people to your page. But we don't really know if those people will be authentic followers or genuine followers. It's not that you must do one or the other. The ideal world is you use both, because paid is fuel to the engine that is organic. Use both strategically. And here are just some very, very quick growth hacks. If I was you, I'd take a very, very quick screenshot. This is just scratching the surface when it comes to hacks with respect to your organic growth. But very, very important to make sure that if we just get these things done, we do it consistently, we do it over time, we will definitely see the benefits of it. I also very, very quickly want to just talk about the 2 paid strategies. You've got 2 types of paid strategies. You've got the boosting, or what we industry professionals call paid social, and then you've got the ad campaigns. Boosting is what Instagram or Facebook has made very, very, very easy for everybody. If you are a business profile, below your post, you'll see a boost post option. You can go there. You don't need to be an expert. It's not rocket science. Just go there. Small budgets, as low as a few ₹100. Try and define your audience. Run this as an experiment. Run this on different creatives and see what happens. And the more complex one is the ad campaigns, for which you will need to lean on agencies like us, like mine. which is essentially targeted. You target by location, by age, by interest. There's a more detailed cohort definition, but that's significantly better for things like ticket sales, or streaming pushes, or events. Whereas the paid social is great for discoverability and also to push your organic presence, because those two will be directly linked. Always define an objective if you do want to do this. Start small. I've put 500 to 1,000, but you can even run with 100, 200 rupees and keep testing different creatives. Which creative works best, right? Again, some small tips to convert followers into fans, not just numbers or follower count on Instagram, but actual relationships. We'll take another 5 minutes and wrap this up. I think we should be fine with that. Yeah. So turn your followers into fans, keep engaging, make sure that every person is spoken to. As somebody who's not made it as a musician, but really, really loves music, one of my highest or peak moments as a fan were when somebody responded to me. Or, you know, like an up-and-coming artist. They don't have to be. I completely get if Shankar Mahadevan or a Metallica does not respond immediately to my requirements or to my tweets. But it feels so good when an up-and-coming artist can also take out the time to acknowledge something you've said. Goes such a long way in creating a bond that will probably exist with you for life. Make sure you have fan-first content. So if people do covers of your music, if they talk about you, if they post about you, make sure that you are thanking them for it. Try and create exclusive experiences, listening sessions, IG lives. There's so many intimate gigs happening around most cities in the country now. I've seen gigs happen in people's living rooms, in people's balconies, in people's garages. Try and set up these things for yourself. Become one with the community. Put yourself out there. And the most important bit, consistency. There is no hack to virality, guys. You could be a brand, you could be a musician, you could be an artist, you could be anybody, but nobody knows the formula of going viral. Because if they did, everyone would be viral. There is no substitute to consistency. So make sure that you are consistent with everything that you do. Understand that 20% of super fans contribute up to 80% of an indie artist's income. A super fan is someone who will follow you across platforms, who will turn up to your gigs, who will proactively ask you when you're performing next, or annoyingly ask you when is the next album or the next single dropping. But those super fans are essentially who contribute to majority of indie artists' earnings. Make sure you are trying to give enough of your time and bandwidth to your super fans. And there's a small, case study. We look at Rishabh Sharma. Please look him up on Instagram while we're talking about him. But Rishabh Sharma, who essentially is a sitar artist, a sitar player, got global, presence or got global popularity using his digital-first identity. Innovated and created a concept which was sitar for mental health, which obviously tied into relatable aspects of wellness, the sitar for tradition, and all of it was so relatable that he was able to create a very, very strong following for himself, leverage Instagram Reels and Shorts. Please go look at his content to understand how he's kind of bifurcated different content for the different types of formats. Use storytelling and consistent content, beautiful imagery, very consistent, very feel-good, peaceful imagery, which kind of created that consistency. And then he took all of this that he had going for himself online and converted it, into concerts, collaborations, and even media coverage. Finally, I want to start talking to you guys as I come to the end of my presentation. Social media, it's not just for visibility, right? It's leverage. It's a pathway for musicians, to start getting some traction when it comes to streaming, pushing people to the right platforms to listen to their music. It's a great way to put yourself out there for gig bookings. It's a great way to collaborate with people. We've seen some of the biggest collaborations come off of an Instagram direct message that was sent to people. There are stories of how the biggest artists in the world just had DMs from an up-and-coming artist with a small piece that they actively did for that person, for that artist, and they managed to collaborate, right? And finally, your direct-to-fan sales. It's becoming so easy to build your own websites, to start selling your own merchandise. It's so easy to just pick up the phone on a partner and figure out a delivery person who will make sure that your merch gets created and the logistics of it are sorted. Make sure that you are trying to be cognizant of these opportunities and then using the internet to convert these. 64% of Indian indie musicians say that their Instagram presence directly influenced at least one booking or collaboration in 2024. That's massive, guys. Just putting yourself out there has led to conversions on a business front. Very, very important that we're consistent with this stuff. And the coolest thing that it does for you is it sets you up for a brand collaboration or a partner or sponsorships, right? Because brands are also looking for authentic alignment. As someone who works and advises brands, I'm not going to suggest the brand to someone who has bad engagement, who has a bad visual tonality, or someone who just feels inauthentic. So every brand wants to get that authentic person. Think about it. All of the ads that we see nowadays, even something as simple as if we can take brand names, Cred will use the credibility of the Deol brothers who are, say, just up and coming or have just recently, not up and coming, sorry, but who've just recently kind of made their own comeback in some sort, and will put them onto the screen, right? So it's very important that you stay authentic, that you stay out there, because that is the nature of people that brands will look for. A simple example would be how do you stand out for a brand, right? I want everyone to do a little bit of homework for themselves. Can you think of one, we'll come back to this slide, but can you think of one brand that you want to really, really collaborate with? It could be Bose, who identify as a sound purist. It could be Nike, who are energetic, performance-driven artists, or it could be Red Bull, who are edgy, experimental, and lifestyle-driven. What kind of content would you create, or what ad would you create if you were shooting with Bose? Go ahead, create that content. Send it out to Bose and say you'd love to collaborate with them. I want everyone who's attending this to just do this little bit of homework, and the next 10-15 days, try and create one piece of content almost as if you are officially already partnered with that brand, and see where that leads you. To summarize, what I want everyone to go home and do to try and wrap their head around this, or to try and have a valuable takeaway from this, define your 3 words, right? I want you to start posting behind the scenes for your process. You could be sitting alone. You could be jamming with your, with your bandmates. You could be jamming with your team. Post that and regularly engage with your fans. Just whoever is responding to you, whoever is acknowledging you, whoever is commenting or asking questions, make sure you're responding to them. And finally, create one piece of content that shows what you would do if you had to collaborate with the brand, and just reach out to that brand. Do these 3 things plus the 4th brand brand collaboration homework. I promise you, in the next 20 days, this will yield instant results. That brings me to the end of my bit. I'm so sorry, Shehzad. I've shot over time.
No, thank you so much. Thanks, Kartik. I hope I'm audible properly.
Yep.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Let me introduce you to our platform, Bandsintown. Odds are that some of you know very much about the platform. Some of you have just heard about it, and some of you have no clue about what Bandsintown does, right? So I'll be honest, this is the only part of the presentation that has AI in it, which is the description of Bandsintown, which I asked ChatGPT to do. And it said it's a platform for the modern artist to build a sustainable career by owning your fan relationships. And it's pretty spot on in this case. There's no other AI in the presentation, I'll be honest. For the people who have sort of seen us somewhere, want to jog their memory, you can notice us at these places. If you go onto Spotify, if you go onto YouTube channels, in this case, A.R. Rahman sir's profiles, you'll probably see us there. So what Bandsintown is the world's largest live music and event discovery platform. We are the most authentic source for live shows in the world, and the biggest for that matter. So we are, in a sense, the Google for live events. But in our case, what we do is we make sure that these events are authenticated by either the artist, by the management team, by the promoters, by the venues, or even by the festivals that are running it. So let me quickly, this is what we'll go through today. This is our set list for today's gig. We'll go over the platform, a little bit of artist challenges, which is why we've built this platform, and some features of Bandsintown. So Bandsintown originally was made to kind of celebrate the live gigs and the live concert experience that is given to fans, right? We believe that the connection between fans and artists is holy. That is the most important connection that is relevant to everybody in this ecosystem, right? Because that relationship, and Kartik spoke about how you build on that and how you kind of engage with them. But we believe that if a fan shows up for you, that is the ultimate support that an artist can get, right? So our goal as a platform is to help artists have more gigs, is to help fans discover these gigs, right? So our vision basically in this digital age is to get people out and to get people enjoying live music. And that is done by focusing on the two parts of this entire process. One is, the two people involved are the fans and the artists. So for the fans, our goal is simple. We don't want fans to miss any show of their favorite artists. Our journey as a product and as a platform has been to try and address this problem for fans, right? The goal is that if you are following a certain artist and he's performing near you, odds are high that he's probably announced his gig on X ticketing platform, which you have not got a notification from, etc. So our goal for the fans is that we will make sure that we let you know when the artist is coming, regardless of where he's performing, and of course around you. And for the artists, this translates to a growth in your career, right? So fans are your career. While music is your art, the fans are what make your career. We enjoy getting artists up from selling 50 tickets to 5,000 tickets. So that entire journey is what Bandsintown is about. I attended the Coldplay concert, and of course it was great. It was great for the concert economy in India. It kind of was an inflection point where not just the government, but everybody involved understood that there is tremendous value in the live music industry, right? And so there were a lakh people in the hall, and that was great. There was one artist pulling 1 lakh people, right? Our platform is built for 1,000 artists pulling 500 people each, right? And that's a much bigger number of tickets than one concert can do. And our goal is to kind of nurture these artists who are upcoming, who are starting off, and who want to scale up from selling just 50 tickets to sell 5,000 tickets. And that is made possible because of the partnerships that we have. So because of our vision and because of the way we are trying to solve this problem, we seek out relationships within the industry, within everybody in this entire live music and concert ecosystem, to make sure that we get the right information at the right time. And that is, if you see the slide, you can see the kind of partnerships we have. This kind of cuts across, if Spotify, YouTube, these are all competing platforms in a sense, but they all work with us because they're also interested, they want to grow, make sure that the artists have a place and they have a way to communicate with the fans of when they're going to perform near them. We have festivals that partner with us, that list on a platform. We have promoters using a platform to amplify the gigs that they are hosting. We have venues who are also using a platform because there's a built-in audience on the platform. So for the venue, this kind of allows the venue to communicate to people around the venue of all the gigs that are performing or happening in there. Well, so it's been sort of a 13-year journey for people who think that it's a new platform. It's actually using the platform. That's a screenshot of the platform that you see there. It's got about 100 million registered fans as of now. We kind of generate 20 million buy ticket clicks monthly. So on a monthly basis, we are basically sending fans from our platform to purchase a ticket. So we're not a ticketing platform, which is why we can work with we have so many partnerships, because we don't sell tickets ourselves, right? Our goal is just to enhance discovery for the fans and for the artists. We work with 65,000 venues and promoters globally. In the last year, we had 7.5 billion push notifications and emails to recommend events. So this recommendation is an important part for upcoming artists, because we use a lot of the genre and the space that the artist is, has his music in, to recommend him to somebody else who's a fan of a similar genre of another artist, right? So what we've seen is that a fan and a follower on Bandsintown is 3 times more likely to attend your gig than a fan on any other platform or a follower that he has, right?
Wow.
So from an artist perspective, I mean, of course, while Kartik, I think, kind of help you understand and address of how you could go about overcoming the challenges that you have. The reason why a platform exists is because we saw these challenges, of course. There is a discoverability problem for artists, right? When you're upcoming, to be discovered, where you might probably be lost in the feed of somebody, of your fans' Instagram, where in the Spotify playlists, if your song is not featured, if it's not showing up, these are all problems of discoverability that artists have. The artists are also dependent on the algorithm, right? A lot of your content that is created is dependent on the algorithm, which decides whether it's visible to, say, X percentage of your following. So your communication also sort of is dependent on that a bit. And from an artist perspective, the issue of being able to convert all the engagement that you see on these platforms into a sustainable revenue, that is also one challenge that we hope to address. Of course, and we come to the tools, which there are a lot of tools out there, and it's pretty confusing as to which tool an artist can use, which tool you should consistently use to be able to engage with your fans, to sort of manage the database, manage the mailing list that you have, and also these are all challenges that the artist sees. So in a sense, what we're saying is to kind of make sure from an artist that these are the basic 6 pointers that you look at that will ensure that in the long term, you create a consistent and genuine fan base and a communication stream with those fans, right? The goal is to have some consistency, which is over time going to build up and then generate and create that scale for you as an artist, right? I mean, Coldplay did not sell out 1 lakh tickets within 5 years of existing. They did 20 years of continuous communication, of building a brand, and of course, that's not just that. It's not just about their virality. It's also about the tools that their teams used.
Yeah.
They've used consistent tools. They've been very efficient in how they gather that data of the fans and how they use that data at the right moment to build that kind of brand and to build that communication stream. So that is very important for an artist. So the first thing I would say is make sure you try and get the first party data of your fans, right? Which includes your email address and phone numbers. You should have your own mailing lists. You should not depend on any other platform for your communication. That is sort of your, it's your most valuable asset because that is something that you keep for yourself. And you can use that in various different platforms across the internet to be able to then reach out to the fans. So as long as you have that for yourself, that is your insurance to make sure that if you're deplatformed in some scenarios, that you don't lose out on your audience, right? So that's important.
Yeah, perhaps it's a business quote, but it's something that I hear often in my field. Data is the new currency.
Right.
Right. It's we know databases get sold for tons of money. So having your own database, I think, will definitely go a very, very long way.
Right. And then the second thing is the analytics, right? To understand a simple thing like which city should I come to? I'm planning an India tour next year, and what we see is the most common kind of way that artists trying to reach out is hey, comment your city in the section. Or they'll probably go and see the streams data, right?
Yeah.
That might not give you the exact picture, and then you have to go through a comment feed, etc. So there are tools available. Of course, we also have it. But there are tools available that will help you kind of align that database and align that data into very meaningful and tangible ways of sort of planning your tour. And the third thing is the direct communication. So the first thing that you get by having first-party data is that you're able to own that communication directly with the fan, right? And that makes it authentic, right?
Yeah.
Right. You can keep it very authentic. You can make sure you nurture your top fan community, sort of, where you kind of are able to reach out to who you know are your biggest fans, right? A very simple thing like just if you could go back in time and see your first 5 months of as you were an artist and you broke out. Can you tell me who were the first 50 followers or say 100 followers? Imagine if you could consistently give them some incentive.
Yeah.
Because they were the first ones there, right?
It could be something as small as like when you say incentive, could it also just be something as like you do merch and you give them the first look?
Right. You give them the first dibs on your tickets, right? You give them the first dibs on having the front row tickets, stuff like that. So those things are only manageable when you do have a direct communication with that fan base, right? So that is very important. And incentivizing engagement. So all these things are obviously only possible when you have a direct line of communication with your fans, when you're not dependent on somebody else to kind of how you communicate with them. So finally, I think I'll quickly, of course, there are a lot of features on the platform and we might take all day to just go through it. But if you're an artist management team who's already used the platform, then this probably help you understand some of the sections of it. And if this is the first time you're seeing it, then this is what an artist, when he creates his profile or he claims his profile, because he might already be there because we've partnered with Spotify, etc. So his profile might be there on a platform already. I would recommend you to go and claim your profile. So what this platform essentially, and this is the interface that an artist sees when he logs in, right? That's your homepage. You have all your gigs on the right side. You've got the engagement metrics given there below that, and on the left side is your menu. So the first thing that you should do is fill up your profile, because Bandsintown as a platform is built to try and push and recommend you, if you're an upcoming artist, to fans of bigger artists and artists who are in the similar genre space, right? So if you fill up the data about the genres that you have, similar artists that you have, and your social media links, etc., then the platform is kind of going to recommend you to to fans of other artists in the same genre and same space. And we've seen that the recommendation part of it generates 30 to 40% of traffic on the platform. That's the gig page. So you basically get to add your events. A lot of the events might be populated already also because we've partnered with, say, ticketing platforms, or we've partnered with venues who already have this in place. So all this data is already ready there and available for you. So this is a very special tool that we've created. It's called a smart link. I mean, a lot of people are used to seeing a link tree or, on their bios that artists put. So this is a little smarter version of that we've done to kind of promote all your live gigs. So once your gigs are listed within Bandsintown, they automatically show up and they refresh here. And when the date gets over, that gigs automatically gets removed from this smart link. So again, when we come back to consistency, I've noticed a lot of artists who leave links of gigs that have already passed on their bios, right? You're losing out on traffic, you're losing out on a lot of, that's, in performance marketing, that's like absolute.
It's also like hygiene, like it's basic hygiene.
It's basic hygiene, right. So this is something that smartly manages that. This page also has, as I mentioned, a request a show button. So in case you have fans who do not have a show near them, there is a button at the bottom of this page that allows them to request a show. And that data is easily available and can be seen by you on the dashboard. So you can see the cities from which fans are requesting shows. We've had Indian artists who have been using this platform for the past couple of years now, and they plan their US and Europe tours based on the data on the platform of where the requests have come from, just by using a smart link. Let me just quickly check my time. Okay, good on time. So as we started with our integrations with Apple Music, with Google, with Shazam, with Spotify, with YouTube, these are the places we surface your live gigs on your profiles, right? So whenever a fan is engaging with your content, with your actual music, and he's very emotionally invested in the music at that point of time, we're able to surface these events to them.
And this happens on its own, like automatically?
Yeah, so once you enter it on this dashboard, once you enter your profile on this dashboard specifically, we'll automatically take care of that syncing for you.
Wow.
So you just have to do it one time the first time. So our goal, again, for artists is to sell out shows and tours faster. You can use the platform to announce new dates because the moment an event gets added on our platform sends out automatic notifications to your fans and potential fans around you. The goal is, again, to kind of make sure that the fans know when you're performing near them, right? So, and we kind of geo-fence it. So the idea is that if you're performing in Bombay, only the fans in Bombay are going to get that notification. You could then probably use the platform to send out communication outside Bombay and say that, hey, maybe somebody in Delhi, you can use the platform to send out emails to fans in Delhi, etc. We also have a sort of a pre-sales page, or we have a releases page, which allows you to very quickly create a small landing page where you can collect emails also, and you can also announce your upcoming tours and gigs. So, a very simple example is when you say that, hey, my new single is coming out next week, leave your email address, and I'll inform you the first day it is released, right? So this page kind of automates that process for you, where you can create the page. It probably takes 5 minutes to create the page, right? Wow. And you can put in the link already of the streaming platform where the music is going to show up. And on the day it is supposed to release, it'll automatically send out an email to the fans saying that, hey, here's the link for the thing.
And all of this will happen like I'm just like clicking a few buttons. I don't need to know how to design, how to code, how to do any of those things.
No, of course not. So we've kind of built the platform over time to make sure that artists who even don't have the design knowledge, or who are not into looking at creatives, etc., we've created a drag and drop interface so people can just drag and drop their images, and then they can create this entire thing. So the goal again for ourselves is that for an artist, we are trying to reduce your burden of reaching out at places where you're going to perform your live gigs, right? So the idea is you publish in one place and all your live gigs are distributed across our entire network that we have. And we also have the tools for you to integrate with your Instagram, with your own website as well. So I'll probably show you some examples of how artists are using this. But what that does is then it allows you to, from just one place, update so many different platforms. Yeah. So it saves a lot of time for artists and the management team. So again, this is how we are on Bandsintown. This is how it looks on YouTube. This is how it is on Spotify, on Google, on Shazam. So Shazam has a concert section, which even I didn't know till some time back. And Apple Maps. So this is not something that is there in India yet, but this is there in the US, where on Apple Maps, if you look for gigs around you, then if you're listed on Bandsintown, then this shows up under that. So again, coming back to owning the first party data, right? So we are the first platform in the industry who shares the data with the artist, right? So any fan that comes and leaves their email address and phone number for the artist, that is right visible on your dashboard. So if you see here the contact database, and that is portable. We allow you to download it and use it on any other platform. We're not holding it hostage. It's not ours, it's yours. So you're allowed to take it off and use it on any other platform, wherever it is you feel or more comfortable communicating with them from.
As someone who works with platforms, big ups to you guys, because most of the platforms will really gatekeep their data. Yeah. But it's so nice to see that you guys want the actual artist to have that data and have that direct contact because you see the value in it. So big ups to you guys, yeah?
Yeah, our focus is that relationship, right, between the fans and the artist, right? That is the center point of the entire concert economy. Yeah. If that is not strong, we are not going to be able to grow this concert economy, right? So we want to build that kind of thing. So the goal again is to engage your biggest fans by amplifying your music, by selling your merch, by kind of creating incentives by rewarding your super fans. So if for example you can see the first 50 guys that followed you on Bandsintown, if you see their email addresses there, you know who those guys are by just looking at the dashboard, and you can reach out specifically to them saying that, hey, you guys were the first people on board. I want you to have first dibs on my tickets. Yeah. Right? That's something that you can do using the platform, or you can probably download and use it on some other platform as well. So that's a campaigns that artists can use. It's a very basic tool that allows you to drag and drop and create an email campaign, and it also goes out as a push notification on the phone if the fan has the app. So in case for the people who have noticed us, let me just feature some artists that you might see. So Pratik Kuhad, like he said, was a good example. Pratik has been using the platform for some time now. He's integrated it with his website. So if you go to his website, his tour page has Bandsintown there, where they are using the widget to automatically update that page. So Pratik's website team never has to update that tour page, because whenever he updates Bandsintown, all his social media, all his website, along with Spotify, YouTube, etc., gets automatically updated. Nice. So you don't have to go back and edit the website as well.
He doesn't even need a website team. He needs a website person.
He needs a website person, right? So some of the stuff that Pratik has used, so he's sent out mailers, he's sent out push notifications using the platform to announce his show dates. Krunal is a very good example of how he's used the platform to evangelize his super fans, right? So if you go to Bandsintown right now and look at his number of following, it doesn't seem too much, but I'll be very honest, they're a very high converting fan base, where when he announces a gig, they show up. So he's got 200 fans in, say, Kolhapur, in the tier 2 city, and if he announces a gig, 100 of them will show up. Wow. So, and that's enough to fill up a club, because 100 guys with their friends and it shows up. So he's kind of used the platform for some time now. He's also a little more tech savvy. Yeah. So he kind of got the hang of it much earlier before anyone else could in the market, and he uses it really well, right? So smaller artists engaging with good tools, there are other tools also, but Bandsintown, of course, is a tool. If a smaller artist engages with this tool properly, he's able to extract much more value from the followers that he has.
Yeah, would it be right to say, because to me it almost feels like it's almost like a one-stop shop, right? For an up-and-coming artist, they can like knock off a lot of the things that they would end up spending time on by just spending time on Bandsintown.
Right. So specifically for live gigs,
Yeah,
right? For
yeah.
for that specific thing, yes,
yeah.
we've trying to, like I said, our goal is to get people out there.
Yeah.
We want fans to come show up for you. That's our goal.
Yeah.
And our entire product and the way we design it and the features we add are focused on that goal. That's about. When Chai Mein Toast is also, another good example of, they announce their gigs and they plan their shows. They also do their plans for their shows in US, etc., based on the data that they see on Bandsintown.
Lovely.
So it's been great. There are also another smaller artists like Enrique. They also use the platform. So his touring page, for example, is there. There are other artists, Arman Malik, if you can see his bio I think it's still live right now. So if you go to his bio right now, the Insta bio shows Bandsintown. That's the smart link that he's using. Ed Sheeran just announced on our platform. Bryan Adams is there, Chainsmokers. So all these guys are, of course, their teams are using the platform very well to engage with their fans. And yeah, that's about it.
Yes.
Thank you. I think we have time for some questions.
Yes. Shall we move on to some of those? But thank you for that. Yeah, I think super interesting to learn about the journey that you guys had at Bandsintown, and it obviously feels like all the years that you guys have spent on it, you've built a really concrete product, right? And it's, I think for me, in my industry, we know how much people gatekeep data. So to me, that was like mind blowing. You just want them to take the data and make the most of it.
Yeah, it's not new. I mean, a lot of Indians are like, oh, we didn't know you were in India. Like, we're a global platform. We don't have to be in India.
Yeah.
If you're an artist, you can just go and sign up on artist.bandsintown.com and start, claim your profile and start putting up stuff over there, etc.
Perfect. With that, we'll come to a few of the questions. Shehzad, do you want to take the first one?
Sure. So out of all the platforms for music, Spotify, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, Ghana, and other Indian platforms, which ones provide the best reach for new artists and why? And where would I focus on building my profile to be relevant to the Indian market? I mean, all these are distribution platforms where you get to distribute your music. So I would say there are enough tools out there where you can automatically distribute your music on all these platforms without having to go individually on all of them. So what I would recommend is that find one of these tools, find the tool, something like there's a TuneCore, or there are other equivalent stuff also out there where you kind of can put your music in one place and it automatically gets distributed across all the other places. So they are not competing platforms in the sense for an artist, where I think if you have music, you should be putting it up everywhere as much as possible. Yeah, that's about, I think, globally, all these are global platforms at the end, right? Spotify, YouTube Music. Yeah. Ghana might have a bigger Indian base, but of course they have a paid Indian base, so that's a better high quality base. But they're all platforms where you should have your music on.
Lovely. Awesome. I'll take one. When talking about visual identity, if there's a bunch of different kinds of visuals one would like to try as an artist instead of sticking to just one, in your opinion, does that hamper the memorability aspect, especially when the artist is building an audience right now versus already having a fan base audience who has been following the artist or knows about them? And how can we go about tracking this as an artist then? Very interesting question. I can actually spend the next couple of hours kind of dissecting this. But is it, firstly, just principally, it's totally okay to evolve. So it's okay for your identity, visual, tone, or whatever it is. We'll speak to visual for this, but for it to change, don't look at it so much as change, look at it as evolve. And as an artist, I think it's a very, very normal, part of your journey to evolve, whether it be on how you present yourself, the things that matter to you, your sound, your visuals, etc. So that evolution is okay. I don't think it hampers your audience if you try new things. It will hamper your audience if you try new things every day. So I would maybe bundle up into two things. Have structure around what you want to try. So it's going to become difficult if you say, I want to try everything, right? So you can't try 10 different styles. But maybe if you want to close in on 2 or 3 that you really like or that you think makes sense, right? So close in on those 2, 3. Have a structure around it. So you know that there's just these 2 or 3 visual styles I want to experiment with. So structure it. And the second point of feedback is figure out ways to track it. A simple thing would be, if you have 3 visual styles, right? Let's say A, B, and C, and you keep alternating. You do A, then you do B, then you do C. You do A, then you do B, then you do C. Be consistent with it. And when you do that over maybe, 1 or 2 or 3 months, what you will notice is that certain things are getting better traction than the others. What is traction? It could mean likes, it could be comments, it could be shares, it could be saves. If your organic engagement is not very high, just put 100 rupees behind each of the posts. So park out some kind of budget, right? And hit the paid social or the boost post button. The lowest amount that you could possibly put. Go ahead and see what that does for you. You will find a trend where A works better than B and B works better than C in some capacity. One thing will work better than the other, and that's the one you double down on. I hope that answers your question. 2 things: have structure with what you want to experiment, structure or predictability, and then create metrics to evaluate or create some kind of benchmark to evaluate which is probably the best. The metrics there can be likes, shares, comments, saves, anything that shows that people interacted with that piece. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I have a couple. Very quick question: is Bandsintown free to use for artists? Yes, it is. Completely free for artists. So I'm an independent musician and I work with different people. So I don't have a band. How do I create a profile? Yeah, I think we cornered ourselves with calling ourselves Bandsintown, but that's not the case. The truth is, this is obviously for individual artists as well. We've also seen comedians use this platform a lot. So I mean, if you see Kevin Hart, he's got about 2 million followers on Bandsintown, right? Because it's a tool at the end of the day. It's sort not just for music, it's a tool to kind of engage with your live audience or your fans who show up for you. So if you're an artist who does not have a band, you can still sign up as your own individual artist name, and you can still enter your Spotify profile, etc., and sync it with that. So, and if you do collaborate with other bands as well from time to time, you could have a separate page for that band and have a separate following for that band, because it's possible that some fans follow you and there are some fans who follow that specific band. So you could have 2 different ways of accessing it, one through a band and one individually yourself.
Awesome. I have a question, which is, my music is pure Indian classical. So where and how will I find my audience? Super interesting question. I recently came across a sitar player and from Mumbai, and he's been playing the sitar and uploading his content on Instagram for the longest time, Instagram, YouTube, across the platforms. And there's another artist, international artist I follow called Tom Mish, who came to India, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he came to India and actually collaborated with this artist. It was so amazing for me to see that an Indian classical musician, because of his Instagram presence, ended up interacting with a global artist. And the global artist actually reached out to him, right? I'm giving you this example to say that all of the platforms that we've spoken of will have a percentage of Indian classical music appreciators. There is no interest that is not available on these platforms. For sure, YouTube might be a better platform than Instagram for Indian classical music. But again, it's about identifying what works. You will need to put yourself out there. You will need to put yourself out there consistently. You will need to optimize for the different kinds of platforms. For example, on Instagram, the reels will go a long way. On YouTube, you can have slightly longer format. Experiment with this, be consistent with it, and measure it. You will find your audience. I'm also going to give everyone a hack here. Google now, we say Google, let's Google this, let's Google that. Google now gives you AI results, right? So you don't need to go through 50 articles. You could actually ask Google, if you make Indian classical music, what is the platform that is most applicable to me? Can you back this up with data and stats? And Google's Gemini AI will actually create an AI, like a almost a claim for you to be saying, I want to double down on YouTube or I want to double down on Instagram. I'm not saying what comes from that is going to be the gospel truth, but what comes from that is going to point you in the direction of where you should spend your time, effort, bandwidth, money, if any, and then kind of see where it goes from there. But again, the consistent principles seem to be, consistency, predictability, and measurement. So consistent with what you do, predictable with the nature of content that you're going to create, and then measure all of this. What gets you the most likes? What gets you the most comments? What gets you the most shares?
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think the key again, and Kartik and I, before we started this workshop, we were discussing the consistency part of it. We've seen that consistently on Bandsintown also across, and similar to other platforms, right? If you are consistent with your messaging, if you're consistent with your communication, especially for, because we're talking about bands and live gigs, about a live gig, right? If a fan knows exactly where to see your current live gigs are at every point of time, no matter where it is, as long as it is consistent, he's going to go and check it out over there at that place, right? So I know a lot of international artists have their own websites, and they have a specific page called tour on their websites. In India, Instagram is much more prevalent rather than having your own website. But if you go to the US or if you go to Europe, these bigger artists have their own website, and they have a page on that website, right? It creates this habit within your fans over time that this is the place I know where his next gig is going to be. There's no chance that I'll miss it, right? And that is a very important habit to create also with your fans that show up for you, right? If you're consistent with that kind of not having the updated gigs on your Insta or your website, all this is criminal in this business, right?
Yeah, like we said earlier, we use the word hygiene. It's hygiene. It's, you're going to wake up and comb your hair and brush your teeth. You must wake up and check if your platforms are communicating the right things.
Correct. Cool. We can move on to the next one.
I have a very interesting question. Also very controversial one in the industry. When you boost, doesn't Instagram start reducing your organic reach? So see, none of these platforms are actually out to get anyone, right? But it is still a business purpose, right? Like the platforms are not, they're not charitable platforms. So they would like to earn more money, which means you will see the benefit of actually boosting. It doesn't kill organic growth. It reveals inconsistent content. Let me deep dive into that. So say, for example, I put, just for instance, 1,000 rupees behind a post, right? I upload a piece of content where I'm maybe jamming with Shehzad and we're talking about a new, gig or a tour that we're doing. And it's, say the audio quality is not that great. We don't really pay attention to it. Say the video is not all that great. We're not saying anything to capture anyone's attention. We're playing good music, but that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, that might not be enough to cut through all the noise and all of the, how much content there is on the platform. If you put money behind something that people don't have a reason to engage with, what you are telling the algorithm is that people don't want to engage with my content. So right at the start of me speaking, I told everyone, there are 3 things that make content shareable, right? There should be some relatability, there should be some emotion, or there should be some engagement angle to it. If none of these 3 are there, nobody will interact with that piece. And then what you're telling the algorithm is, hey, I'm putting 1,000 rupees behind this. So please, can you get this content to 10,000 people? But if there's no point of engagement on that, the algorithm is going to read, you put money behind this to reach more people, but all those people were not interested. So people are actually not interested in your content. So it's not that putting or doing these paid social or boost post reduces your organic reach. It reveals what the algorithm thinks of you. So it's very important that you live by those principles for content creation. Is it relatable? Is it emotional? Like, does it evoke some emotion in me? Or is it something that people will interact with? The most basic question you can ask yourself is, would I interact with this piece? And don't bat for yourself, bat for the audience. The customer has 500 posts to look at in the day. right? From somebody dancing in some corner of the world to somebody hitting a big six to somebody giving some, gyan about mental health to someone talking about their business accomplishments. They have a lot of content to see. So if you believe your content will make them stop scrolling, please put some money behind it. See what happens, measure it. It will not kill your growth. But if you realize that there is certain content that is not getting you engagement, try and stop it, because that is what will reduce your organic reach. I hope this gives a little bit of clarity. I know it's a slightly convoluted and confusing piece to understand the algorithm, but I hope this helps with some direction. Yeah, Shehzad, do you want to take one?
Yeah, so hi, I mostly perform at local venues. Would you still recommend creating a profile on Bandsintown? How can it actually help me build an audience from there? I mean, yeah, you should. Even if you perform just for your friends and family, I think you should still create your profile and make them follow you there. Not because I want you to use the platform, but that's where everybody starts, right? The first 10 guys who follow you on a platform, and then they track where you're going next. These guys are the ones that are going to be your super fans or your first fans, and they will get their friends out next time if they have a good experience when they are out, right? So yes, you must start, even if you have 10 followers on any platform. I think putting yourself out there, using the tools available to you to kind of build your audience and kind of re-engage with them wherever and sort of and get them out there for you, right? So it's important for you to first make sure that you are putting your stuff out there. I think there's another question about putting your music out there also, which is, I think, a similar answer. You must put yourself out there. I mean, there's no point kind of waiting for the right moment, is what I believe. What we've seen with so many artists who are growing up and upcoming, right? Again, they scale up slowly.
Yeah.
Do not expect to overnight become a success, right? I mean, the goal is to kind of slowly build up your fan base, and they will get their friends in to become your fans, right?
Yeah.
The first 50, 100 guys are going to get other people in to become your fans. So you must start somewhere. So even if the first 10 fans are your cousins and your friends, they will get their friends along and they will create a following for you. So yes, you must list on Bandsintown, because if you're doing a live gig, whether it's paid or free, both. So if that does not matter to the platform, right? Because the important part for us is to communicate to even the 10 guys that are following you that, hey, so-and-so artist is performing near you, and this is the date and this is the venue and this is how you can go there. That's all that we care about, and that's what your fans also care about, honestly. So even if they are 10, but that's your starting point. So please start.
Yeah. There's also a very interesting universal truth to what you said, which is, and it's applicable to all forms of art. If you enjoy art, like you're my friend, I will tell you about it.
Right.
And,
Yep.
and I think that's what Bandsintown just makes so easy, right? So it's so important you put yourself out there. Someone who likes what you do will tell 5 of their closest friends, family about it.
Yeah. And what we've seen, and I think that's true even for the social media following, right?
Yeah.
Is that the first 1,000 guys to follow you are generally very highly engaged.
Yeah.
Right? So they are the guys who will spread your word. I mean, because they're emotionally invested in not just your journey, but something about your music or your art has touched them.
Yeah.
Right? And they are going to be the ones who will be your growth story. So you have to start somewhere. You have to start small. If you want to perform in a small 20-person theater also, that's perfectly fine. You must start there.
Yeah.
Right? Because from 20 you're going to move to 200 and then to 2,000 and then 20,000 and God willing 2 lakh.
Yeah.
But it's a journey, and the consistency in using all the social media platforms, using our platform is what is going to deliver for you. Yes, you might get these one-off spikes with a viral reel or whatever it is, but over time you'll realize that if you want to consistently have a career in music and get make fans come out for you, you need to be consistent across all these platforms.
Yeah. Awesome. I have a very interesting one. Okay, we'll take this last one and then end that. My music is my strength, but I'm not a very good speaker. So how do I create content as someone who is not comfortable speaking on camera? Very interesting question. As an artist, right? It's like Shehzad just said a few seconds earlier, it's so important that we keep putting ourselves out there. And it's totally fair to have certain limitations, right? Hey, I'm great with making music, but I'm not so good in front of the camera. Or I'm not so comfortable speaking. you can always find other ways to put your content out there, from lyrics first videos to just cut scenes to, you know, maybe using just hands or just things that you observe or see. There's so many pages that have actually grown and even exploded in their following and engagement without using a face. In the industry, we call these faceless pages. They have no face. You don't know who, you don't actually know the face of the person who's behind it, but they're using, you know, imagery that makes sense to them. If you are an artist and you happen to be, you know, happen to have a strong hold on maybe drawing or sketching or videography or photography, you can use those mediums to be the visuals of what you want to communicate. You can use your music to be the words of what you want to communicate. You can even go to the extent of just using generic music that these platforms have to offer to be the background music to what you want to communicate. That could happen through maybe written text, right? Like written word or typed out word for digital platforms. You don't need to always put your face out there, but you need to keep putting your art out there. So if you're not comfortable maybe talking or putting your face on there, figure out another way to make that happen, but it's important that you do.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of questions yet. So what we'll do is we'll be sending out a feedback form. You can add your questions in that, and you know, Kartik and I will try and respond to that.
Perfect.
One quick question before, I think you saw this. It said, I'm not tech savvy, it was written somewhere. I'm not very tech savvy. How do I navigate? And I think this is one of the places where you must use AI, use those LLMs, because they're able to walk you through the steps to do something. So that is the only case right now. I would say use it. That's all. Yes, ma'am.
So, indeed, really, really inspirational. And as we just said in the beginning opening remark, that we will have the foundational, background given, because these subjects are really deep, and you guys have really living through that, and you have such a lot of information to give it to all of us. So, friends, today we had the privilege of having Mr. Kartik, Khanna, and Mr. Shehzad, Kazi, whom we thank you so much. Really, I like some of the concepts that you put together, is that to create a digital persona.
Yes.
And to give us the whole spectrum of platforms that are available and strategies that each platform is trying to use, and how to leverage that to get the best of it, to be able to connect to your fan base and increase the fan base. So great. And I think we should take this up again, maybe sometime next time, to go one step ahead. And that's how we will grow and be able to reach more fan base. So there you are, friends. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And we will keep you informed about the rest of our activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.